Welcome to Cox Local Edition, a CNN Headline News. I'm Tanya Hindard with Cox Communications. Today we have a special guest from Fairfax County Adult Protective Services, Maury Yao. Welcome, Maury.
Thank you.
Maury, could you tell us a little bit about what your department does to protect adults?
Well, some adults are vulnerable in our community, and that's why the state of Virginia has a code to mandate adult protective services for investigating abuse, neglect, or exploitation of adults in two categories: over 60 adults or adults over 18 who have an incapacity.
So when you say the adults are neglect and they are exploit, what do you mean by that?
Well, for the purposes of adult protective services, they have specific meanings. Abuse means someone is being deliberately hurt. It can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be mental anguish. And in terms of neglect, it can be neglect by a caregiver, or it can be not being cared for by yourself. And these are the kinds of reports that we get the most of, neglect. There's also exploitation, which is using someone's resources for their own advantage. And that can be somebody that the person knows, or it can be something like lottery scams, phone scams, etc.
So if our viewers know of someone, an older person being neglected, who should they contact?
They should contact Fairfax County's APS hotline, which is 324-7450. And what they're looking for is signs of neglect or abuse or exploitation, which can be things like debris in their property that wasn't before, different changes in their patterns of behavior. Sometimes they're confused or disoriented while driving, things of that nature they can tell us about.
So can you tell a little bit what happens once someone calls your department?
Mm-hmm. A social worker will answer the phone and take the information, and even if you are not sure that it's abuse, neglect, or exploitation, we would like you to call, and they will discuss the situation with you, and then they will decide if it's a valid report. And we want people to understand that it's very confidential, it's by law strictly confidential, and that the reporter is not, their name is not released.
So that's really wonderful to know it's confidential, because some people might see some neglect going on in a neighborhood and they're afraid of calling.
Right.
So it is really confidential.
Yes.
Okay, so for more information, if our viewers really need to get in touch with you, what should they do again?
They should call the hotline, which is 703-324-7450. And then if there is a valid report, a social worker will investigate the situation, and they have 45 days to investigate that situation. At the end of the 45 days, they decide if it's unfounded, and then the case is closed, although we can still offer some services if appropriate. And if it is found that they need protective services, then we will try to solve the problem with services that we have available in the community, such as home care or increased medical care or transportation to medical appointments and that sort of thing.
Does your agency provide any classes for the older person who really wants to be safe, you know, on the phone or the internet? Or
well, they can look on our website for information about all kinds of opportunities for older persons in the community, and that's www.fairfaxcounty.gov/seniors, and then they can go on the links for adult services and for adult protective services.
Thank you for all the information, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for joining us today at Cox Local Edition, CNN Headline News.